What's up, everyone? It's your host, Ghost, coming to you live with another wonderful video. How's everyone doing today? Oh, I am up and at 'em today. Sorry, I guess I'm gonna look at my teeth. Oh, excuse me. Um, yeah, I'm doing good today. Oh man, a little tired, but I mean that's nothing new at this point, right? If you didn't know, I did a bunch of gaming streams this past weekend. So make sure you go check them out. I am finally up to enough people where I could reserve my own unique URL code. So I got that going now. Here it is, GamingWithGhost Rumble.com/C/gaming with Ghost. So you can check me out there for my gaming channels. But follow me at official WGhost. As the best way that you can find me, and you can you can follow me, and then you can find my links of it and everything. And yeah. So we got a few things we're going to talk about. Two probably fairly short things, and then we got one probably longer thing. The three of the men, or three men, it might be the main three guys, because I know one guy already got his stuff dropped. That were accused of planning to kidnap the governor Whitmer have been found not guilty on all counts. So we're going to look at that today. So we're going to look into that, maybe go over the history a little bit. And then the White House addressed the possibility of pardoning Hunter Biden after his federal gun charge has been put into place. And then finally, Russell Brand is being accused of sexual assault by a woman. I had one of those almost sneezes. But yeah, those are the topics I'm going to cover today. I might go scroll around and maybe find something else. But yeah, that's what we're going to talk about today. Need some coffee, all right? So, sorry, got distracted per usual. Let's get into it. So, for those who don't remember, back in 2020, there's a couple people that were being accused of attempting to kidnap Michigan Governor Whitmer. I think it was quote unquote over COVID shit, basically. And it really ended up consisting of like four guys, and the rest were pretty much FBI informants. It was a very big deal. It was one of those cases where it seemed like the FBI were the ones that were kind of pushing for the kidnapping, and the four or so guys were just there trying to. We're just basically talking shit is what they were doing. They weren't really planning to do any real actions, and it seemed like the informants themselves were the ones that were really pushing to try and get people to do stuff. Some may call that entrapment. But that's like the broad backstory of all of this. One of the four got all his cases dropped, and he ended up being on Ricada Law's show talking about it. So yeah, so let's get into this article and let's go. A jury has found 3 men accused of taking part in a 2020 plot to kidnap Governor Gretchen Whitmer not guilty on all counts. The defendants, Eric Moulter and brothers William and Michael Knoll, have been charged with providing material support for terrorist acts and carrying or possessing a firearm during the commission of a felony. If they were convicted of providing material support, the men would have been sentenced to serve between 5 and 20 years in prison. Joanne Hulse, chief of staff to Governor Whitmer, issued the following statement in response to the verdicts. Today's verdict is disappointing, Hulse said. A not guilty verdict on a plot to kidnap and kill Governor Whitmer in hopes of starting a civil war will further encourage and embolden radical extremists trying to sow discord and harm public officials or law enforcement. Governor Whitmer ran for office because she loves Michigan, and Hulse said, and that's why public servants do what they do. We will not let anyone stop us from getting things done. Will be relentless in our pursuit of making Michigan a better place to live and work. We appreciate the prosecutors and law enforcement officers for their work. Now, that may be true and all, but my question, for Ms. Whitmer, is if you love Michigan so much, why'd you lock it down and kill their elderly so much? It's a big important thing to kind of gloss over. There was a very high amount of elder deaths in Michigan. Governor Whitmer has not, as far as I know, has not yet released the public accounts of how many elderly have died during the commission's COVID. As far as I know. Crowder did a whole thing about it too. Where he even did a rally, and he demanded he sent a FOIA request for the actual death toll counts in Michigan, and as far as I know, he has yet to receive them. And then not only that, while the whole other country is locked down, why was your husband trying to take his boat out when everyone else wasn't allowed? These are just some things that you saw Whitmer having to deal with, or things that were going on while she was running, or as she runs Michigan. All right, Michigan Attorney General Dana Nessel issued the following statement shortly after the verdicts were announced. While today's verdicts are not what we hoped for, the success we have achieved throughout these cases in both state and federal courts send a clear message that acts of domestic terrorism will not be tolerated in our state. Nessel said, we remain committed to combating active domestic terrorism, and the proactive work at this joint action undoubtedly saved lives. I'm grateful for the exemplary efforts of all involved at the local, state, and federal. So it lasted 15 days. The fuck? Okay. Well, this was fairly bland. Let's see. Sorry, I'm just looking at because that kind of just ended up being fairly bland. Okay, so I guess there's 14 in total. 9 others have been with connections to the plans were previously convicted. There's a lot more, but there's like a lot of like FBI informants, and it seemed more that the FBI informants were the one pushing for this shit. If I remember correctly. But these guys, the Knowles brothers and Moulter, were accused of supporting leaders of the kidnapping plan by participating in military-style drills, visiting Whitmer's vacation home in northern Michigan. And then the Moulter and William Knoll testified in their own defense, and they admitted that they attended gun drills and took rides to check Whitmer property. Knoll said he and his brother broke away when talks turned to getting explosive. Michael Knoll did not testify, and his lawyer declined to question witnesses. The key players in the kidnapping plot, Adam Fox and Barty Croft Jr., were convicted of kidnap conspiracy last year. According to evidence from the trial, a plan was derived after the men were disgusted with government-imposed COVID-19 pandemic restrictions. When the plan was exposed, Whitmer blamed then-President Trump, saying his actions gave comfort to those who spread fear and hatred and division. So there we go. Yeah, if I remember correctly, like the FBI informants they had were like pushing it, like these guys were just basically a group of guys who'd go to the bar and talk shit, and then some FBI informants got involved, and then their talking shit ended up turning to action shortly after, if I remember correctly. Yeah. So I mean, so it sounds like the government didn't have enough evidence when it came to these 4 guys on their quote unquote assistance in the attempted kidnapping. And these guys were found not guilty, which is good. So there we go. So, White House addresses possibility of pardoning Hunter Biden for first time since federal indictment. Hunter was indicted by special counsel David Weiss on Thursday. White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre addressed the possibility of President Biden pardoning his son for the first time since the latter was indicted on federal charges for making false statements and unlawful possessing a firearm. Will the president pardon or commute his son if he is convicted? One reporter asked Jean-Pierre during Friday's daily White House briefing. So I've answered the question before. It was asked of me not too long ago, a couple weeks ago, and I was very clear, and I said no, Jean-Pierre responded. Her plan was unchanged from the one she gave in July following Hunter's first appearance at a Delaware federal court when the president's son pled. What the fuck? God damn it, Fox News. Son pleaded not guilty to tax charges. Jean-Pierre said no when asked if the president would pardon his son if convicted. Biden was indicted Thursday on Thursday on federal gun charges out of Special Counsel David Weiss investigation. He was specifically charged with making a false statement in purchase of a firearm, making a false statement related to information required to be kept by a federal firearms licensed dealer, and one count of possession of firearm by a person who is an unlawful user of or addicted to a controlled substance. These are the first charges Wise has brought against their first son since being granted special counsel status. The charges come after a original plea agreement collapsed during Hunter's July court appearance when he was expectedly guilty to 2 misdemeanor tax counts of willfully failure to paying federal income tax as part of a plea deal to avoid jail time on the federal gun charge. So there you go. Now, I would not be surprised if, the reason they're saying no is because they don't expect Hunter to get convicted. And I wouldn't be surprised if afterwards, when all is said and done, and when all is said and done, Biden ends up pardoning his son because, why wouldn't he? It's his son. Now, let me be clear. If Biden were to, pardon his son, he would be legally able to do it. The restrictions on the president's power of pardon is limited really only to impeachment. So the president can pardon anyone for any federal charge. So it's really up to the president who he pardons and for what reason. And I don't even think he even has to have a legitimate reason. He just says, "I'm just pardoning this guy." Yeah, it's that's what I think. That's the law. So, for example, if President Trump were to come in and win re-election, he could pardon himself on all his federal charges. There's no law. There's nothing abusive power of that. He couldn't pardon himself on impeachment, but he can pardon himself on any federal charges he ends up getting. There's nothing in the Constitution that would prevent that. And then, that also would go down to the president's children. So if he were to do this, he could legally do it, and there shouldn't be any issues with him doing it. Now, politically, would it be a bad idea? Probably, because his opponents would use that and attack Biden with it. So, politically, that might be a bad move. But here's what I think will happen. Say Hunter gets charged by, any breath of the imagination actually ends up happening. Say Hunter gets charged. Well, he will spend, the next couple, year or so in jail, maybe, if he gets charged before the 2024 election. Or convicted before the 2024 election, which I doubt will happen. But let's say that he does get charged. Well, if Biden gets reelected, I guarantee he's going to pardon his son. And I guarantee that even if he's, still doing his trial and whatnot, Biden will come in if he gets reelected and pardon his son. I'd bet a lot of money on it, honestly, because, it would be surprising if he didn't. So we'll see. He may very well even lead it. He very well might leave it till he's about to leave office. Yeah, like for example, the day before, He might pardon his son before he leaves office if he loses re-election. I think he's going to end up pardoning his son. I'm willing to bet it. And again, he, constitutionally, legally, he's allowed to do that. He can pardon his son if he wants to. Now, I just found this article, so we're going to go into this before we get into my big one. Speaking of Hunter Biden sues IRS, alleges agents tried to target and embarrass it. Biden lawsuit calls out IRS whistleblowers Gary Shapley and Joseph Ziegler. Hunter Biden's attorneys filed a lawsuit against the IRS on Monday, alleging that agents have targeted and sought to embarrass the president's son. Biden's Monday morning filing cites two major examples in IRS agents Gary Shapley and Joseph Ziegler, two whistleblowers who claim the IRS mishandled aspects of its investigation into Biden. Biden's lawsuit seeks for the court to declare that the IRS willfully, knowingly, and or by gross negligence unlawfully disclosed Mr. Biden's confidential tax information. In addition, Biden is demanding $1,000 in damages for each and every unauthorized disclosure of his tax return, including disclosures that happened after the fact. Fox News Digital reached out to the IRS for comment on the lawsuit, but they did not respond. Biden is the son of the President of the United States. He has... Hold on. He has the same responsibilities as any other American citizen, and the IRS can and should make certain that he abides by those responsibilities. Well, he didn't end up doing it, did he? Similarly, Mr. Biden has no fewer or lesser rights than any other American citizen, and no government agency or agent has free reign to violate his rights simply because of who he is. Yet, the complaint says the IRS and its agents have conducted themselves under a presumption that right applies to every other American citizen do not apply to Mr. Biden. Lawsuit goes on to allege that IRS agents Shapley and Ziegler targeted and sought to embarrass Biden through statements to the media. The suit clarifies that the pair agents, are the most recent examples of the alleged activity. Excuse me. As Shapley Ziegler testified before the House Oversight Committee earlier this year, saying that they face limitations when tasked with investigating the president's son. Biden's lawsuit argues the pair's status as whistleblower cannot and does not shield them for their wrongful conduct in making unauthorized public disclosures that are not permitted by the whistleblower's process. So there we go. Hunter Biden suing the IRS. I think we would all like to sue the IRS and get a bunch of money back for all the crap that they keep taking from us. So we'll look at that, see what happens. Will anything come of that? Who knows? Maybe something will, maybe something won't. All right. So let's get into today's main topic. I guess that actually wasn't so. Sorry. So Russell Brand is accused of rape, sexual assault, and abuse. Now, if I'm right, this accusation comes like what is it, like 10 years or 10 years plus from the incident? They didn't say anything back then, and now they're saying something now. Okay, so let's get into it. Let's see what's being said and accused. 4 women, including one who was just 16, makes allegations after an investigation by the Sunday Times, the Times, and Channel 4 Dispatch. The comedian actor Russell Brand has been accused of rape, sexual assault, and emotional abuse during a 7-year period at the height of his fame. 4 women have alleged sexual assault between 2006 and 2013. So, the closest is 10 years. The earliest is 10 years since these incidents have occurred. So it's been 10 years since these incidents have occurred, and now accusations are being alleged against. So 4 women have alleged sexual assault between 2006 and 2013, while he was a presenter for BBC Radio 2 and Channel 4, and then an actor in Hollywood films. Others have made ranges of accusations about Brand's controlling, abusive, and predatory behavior. How does that go down so fucking cool? Brandon denied the allegations, said his relationships have all been consensual. The findings come from a joint investigation by the Sunday Times and the Times and Channel 4 Dispatch. One woman alleges that Brand raped her against a wall in his Los Angeles home. She was treated at a rape crisis center on the same day, according to the medical records. Text messages show that in the hours after leaving his house, she told Brand that she'd been scared by him and felt taken advantage of. When a girl says no, it means no. Brand replied saying he was very sorry. That's a very broad, what is the word? Paraphrasing, a very broad paraphrasing of what was said. I do have the alleged text message, and we will go over it. But I would just say this. It looks a little fishy to me. But we'll get into it. We'll look at it. Don't worry. We'll look at it. But this is very broad paraphrasing of what was actually said. A second woman alleges that Brand assaulted her when he was 31 and she was 16 and still in school. She said he referred to her as a child during an emotionally abusive and controlling relationship that lasted about 3 months, and that Brand once forced his penis down her throat, making her choke. She says she tried to push him off, and she had to punch him in the stomach to make him stop. A third woman claims that he sexually assaulted her while she worked with him in Los Angeles, and he threatened to take legal action. She told anyone about her allegations. The fourth described being sexually assaulted by Brand and him being physically, emotionally abusive towards her. All said that they felt ready to speak only after being approached by reporters. That's very convenient. I've always said this. I have problems believing people that didn't go to the cops. They didn't go to the cops and go through a legal way to ramify their justice. And they only speak when they can do it by reporters, and they can do it, via civilly. And here's the difference, because obviously they haven't done anything civilly against Russell Brand yet. I'm sure we will see something about that here in a bit. Not in this article, but in the future. I mean, and for those who've seen my podcast on the matter, we know that civil lawsuits tend to have a lower burden of proof. It's just a preponderance of the evidence, meaning 51%. While a criminal case requires beyond a reasonable doubt. So, preponderance of the evidence, beyond a reasonable doubt. Those are the two standards for finding someone guilty in a civil case and in a criminal. So I always have. I'm always refrained from believing anyone that only speaks after. Yeah, they only speaks through like reporters and civil ways instead of going after legally ways. That's my hesitation in believing anyone, honestly. Now, before we get into this more, there's something else I got to talk about. I know, what could it be? What could it be? Well, fuck. You didn't say anything. I don't give a shit at this point. And that's Coffee Brand Coffee. Coffee Brand Coffee is the best coffee in the world, in my opinion. I should have mine arriving today at some point. So Coffee Brand Coffee has a variety of flavors. They got light to dark, bourbon flavored. They got spice jack o' lantern, and they even have pumpkin for the fall seasons. But my favorite has been French toast flavored. It's my favorite so far. If you're not into coffee, they have tea. They have all the way from Earl Grey, English breakfast, chamomile, oolong, apple pie, biscotti. Those are a variety of options you can take. Coffee Brand Coffee. And then if you're not into either of those, well, guess what? There's some cocoa. They got 3 flavors: cocoa, velvety, rich caramel, and marshmallow. But fall is here, which means winter is not far behind. So you better check out some Coffee Brand Coffee or some hot chocolate from it. And then if you're feeling snacky, they got a variety of snacks, including mostly nuts and saltwater taffy. So Coffee Brand Coffee is unique as it is it roasts to order, meaning it doesn't roast until you order it, meaning it's as fresh as you could possibly get it without going to a store or doing it yourself. They have 4,000 customers. They have 4,000 customers and mostly 5-star reviews. If you want to check them out, this is where my referral link right there, and then you can also use coupon code GHOST. What was I going to say? My referral link and with Ghost gives you 10% off if you do a subscription. Changed it. If you use the sorry, I'm thinking. If you use a subscription, that gives you 10%. So you won't be able to get the 5% from the referral code or the coupon code. But still use the referral code. As you know, that'll give me my credit. That's all I ask. All right, back to the article. Or whatever it's called. Reporters. Several said they felt compelled to do so when Brand's newfound prominence as an online wellness influencer with millions of followers on YouTube and other sites. That's been for a while. So, like, how long has it been since they were approached? Because Russell Brand's had this for a bit now. He's been a bit of an influencer. I don't watch him personally, but I know he's been a bit of an influencer for a while. The others have accused him of physical and emotional abuse, sexual harassment, and bullying. Most of the women who do not know each other have chosen to remain anonymous. Shocking. Over the past few years, reporters have interviewed hundreds of sources who knew or worked with Brand, ex-girlfriends, their families, friends and families, comedians, other celebrities, people who work with him on radio and TV, senior staff at the BBC, and Channel 4 and other media organizations. Along with these interviews, reporters have seen private emails and text messages, submitted freedoms of information requests, viewed medical and therapist notes, scrutinized Brand's books and interviews, watched and listened to hundreds of hours of his show on BBC, Channel 4, and YouTube to corroborate allegations. Brand, who is now 48, has managed to maintain his fame for the past 2 decades through reinvention, first as a stand-up comic, known for debauchery, before becoming a primetime Channel 4 TV host, BBC radio star, Hollywood actor, and most recently a wellness guru, anti-establishment influencer with millions of followers online. Throughout his career, Brand's material acknowledged his sex addiction, and he has often publicly joked about his predatory behavior and sex life. There were rumors of more sinister behavior said to be discussed as an open secret by senior TV and radio execs among female comedians who warned each other of his behavior, but the women involved previously felt unable to speak out. Their stories, now told publicly for the first time, shine a light on Brand's alleged mistreatment of women behind closed doors and the industries that enabled him. The Times and Sunday Times gave Brand 8 days within which to reply to detailed allegations, including information to enable him to recall the alleged offense. Lawyers for Brand initially said they were not in position to provide any responses to allegations because we had posed a large litany of questions and intentionally chose to anonymize the names of the women. They characterized this as deliberate and part of a preconceived strategy aimed at damaging their client. This is probably accurate. They said that publications on a concerted campaign, and their client believes that there is a deeply concerned agenda to all this, namely the fact that he is an alternative media broadcaster competing with mainstream media. Pressed to provide a full response, the same lawyers did not reply. When given further opportunity to respond, Brand broadcast a statement on his YouTube channel saying, amidst this litany of astonishing, rather barcoa attacks, are some very serious allegations that I absolutely refute. He said his relationships have always been consensual. He accused the mainstream media of a coordinated attack and said that there are witnesses whose evidence directly contradict the narrative. Oh my God. The Sunday Times asked his lawyers for evidence referring to, but no answer was provided. Probably because they're looking to sue you guys for defamation. Just saying. He sent a card to my school to take me out of lessons. As her taxi approached Russell Brand's home, Alice remembers the driver begging her not to go inside. Recognizing the destination, he had started to ask questions. Alice admitted she was 16 and still in school. I'm just starting to read this, and this sounds bullshitty to me. Anyways, she says the driver replied that his daughter was the same age and entreated Alice, please, I'm asking you not to go in there. You could be my little girl. I would want someone to do this for her. He offered to take her home without charge, but Alice insisted she was fine. He had such a sad look in his eyes, she recalls. Alice, whose name has been changed to protect her identity, now realized she wasn't fine. During a relationship that lasted for about 3 months, when Brand was a BBC radio presenter, she says that he referred to her as the child, and alleges that he became increasingly controlling and then emotionally and sexually abusive. Brand, then 30, sent a card to her secondary school to take her out of lessons and to his home. She says, and asked her to save his name in her phone as Carly to deceive her parents. Brand's management knew that he had a teenage girlfriend and advised him not to be seen with her in public, she says. Alice alleges that Brand once forced his penis down her throat, making her choke, and that after trying to push him off, he only stopped after she hit him in the stomach. She says she was visibly upset after the incident. Brand see that whole thing just sounds like bullshit to me. Like, a taxi brought her to Russell Brand's home, and Alice remembers the driver begging her not to go inside. It just sounds like bullshit. It sounds like a really connived story. Brand made his name in comedy in the early 2000s and also achieved the status of London's most lavish Lothario, whatever. After he gave up drugs in 2002, Brand filled the void with sex. In 2005, he received treatment for sex addiction at a clinic in the U.S. His womanizing ways, he once said, he could sleep with 80 women in a month, saw him crowned Shagger of the Year by the Sunday 3 times, having relations with some of the world's most beautiful women, including Kate Moss, and marrying the pop star Katy Perry in 2010. They divorced in 2012. When Alice met Brand in 2006, he was becoming a household name as a host of Channel 4's Big Brother's Big Mouth and a BBC radio presenter. She was 16, recovering from an eating disorder, and had never had a boyfriend. Again, more bullshit story. He approached her in Lancaster Square after she had been shopping at Top Shop in Oxford Circus, and he had been working at a nearby studio. Alice recognized him from TV and had previously seen him do stand-up. He took my shopping bags from me, which was quite disarming, and proceeded to go through my purchases and critique them, and then he took out one dress and said to me, "You're going to wear this on our date this week," she recalls. Brand asked her to dinner, and she later told her mother, who made Alice text Brand to tell him his age, assuming it would put him off. It didn't. Alice's mother was very upset, but did not feel she could control who her daughter met. Okay, again, I'm calling bullshit on this fucking story. So, you're a mom. You know that this, 30-year-old? How old is he? Yeah. So, this 30-year-old is texting your 16 daughter. Hold on. I'm just looking up something else. It's not English anymore. Okay. Okay. All right. Never mind. Age of consent in England is 16, folks. I didn't know that. All right. So that's why she didn't do anything. Okay. I still call bullshit on the story. Just saying. Because if she's 16, you can just forbid her from leaving the house to go on a date. I remember wearing a wiggly dress and big platform shoes and had my hair blown out and was wearing makeup, Alice now remembers. But I didn't look like a woman by any means. I was a child that had gotten dressed up for dinner. On their first date, she claims Bran asked her as soon as they met to confirm she was definitely 16, saying, I don't give a fuck if you're 12. I need to know where I stand legally. It's a weird thing to say on a first date. During the early stages of the relationship, Alice says Bran was very charming, very attentive, and sending her verbose messages. She remembered feeling giddy and special. Before the first time they had sex, Alice said she told him he was a virgin and claimed he was instantly aroused. He was like, oh my God, my baby, my baby. He picked me up, cradled me in his arms like a child, stroked my hair. He's like, you're like my little doll. She says he became preoccupied with her being innocent and pure. What the? She claims that there was a very large mirror on the wall, and she remembered during sex he would raise his arms above his head like this power stance, like he was conquering something. Over the following weeks, Bran referred to her as the child, asked her to read Vladimir Nabokov, Lolita, and coach her on what to say to her parents when he wanted to see her. Alice says that although Alice was over the age of consent, she and a family member who spoke to the Sunday Times corroborated her story, both describing Bran's behavior as grooming. Interesting. So she and a family member, a lot of people with incentive here. Alice says he suggested he should deceive her parents into allowing her to visit him, and claimed he gave her scripts on how to lie to them. She also alleged that she should not trust her friends and they would be all looking to make money from it. If she revealed she was seeing him, it was isolating, she said. Russel engaged in behaviors of a groomer looking back, but I don't even know what that was then or what it looked like. She says Alice recalls that Bran told her never to send him sexual images and believed this was because of her age. Well, a little bit. It's illegal for anyone under 18 to send someone sexy pictures, I guess. Alice accused Bran of being controlling. She says that he once ran a bath for her, demanding that she stay in it while he went out for an hour. Another time, Alice alleges that Bran removed the condom during sex without her knowing. When he invited her over on his 31st birthday, Alice's mother insisted on driving her. Oh, so now they went from forbidding to driving her. When Alice went to meet Bran on the doorstep, Alice says that he blocked the door and leant down and kissed my mom on the mouth. She says that afterwards, her mother was very, very upset at Bran's behavior and pleaded with Alice to come home with her, but Alice chose to stay. Towards the end of the relationship, Alice says Bran sexually assaulted her. She says, I was sat up in the bed, up against the headboard, and he forced his penis down my throat. I couldn't breathe. It was choking me. I couldn't breathe, and I was pushing him away, and he wasn't backing off. She says I ended up having to punch him really hard in his stomach to get him off. I was crying. He said, oh, I only wanted to see your mascara run anyways. And then I knew at that point he didn't care about hurting me physically or emotionally. It shouldn't take you having to punch someone off to win them to get them off of you. It shouldn't be a physical fight. As Alice lay on one side of the bed after the attack, she alleges that he climbed on top of her, held her mouth, and drooled into it. I was gagging, trying to fight him off, but he was lying on top of me, so I can't. My limbs were trapped underneath him. I just thought, why am I doing this? It can't even be. Why are you doing this? It can't even be any. It can't even be any sexual gratification in this. Yeah, I'm sure that at 16, her thoughts were there. It can't be any sexual gratification in this. I'm sure that's what she thought. He then held my mouth shut and made me swallow it. I just gagged and cried. And so I was just gagging and crying. The relationship ended when Bran invited her over one day, and she arrived to find another woman in his bed. The woman in his bed. I was so angry and said to him, "Why would you do this to me? This is so humiliating." Alice has decided to speak out because she now believes that she was too young to be able to consent to a relationship with an adult man, and that the law should be changed to protect those under 18. My mom still feels like she failed me in some way in allowing this to happen. Well, if this is true, yeah, your mom's a failure. But she had no recourse at all. Well, she could have kept you home and said, yeah, you can't go see this guy. She could have, no, I'm not driving you to see this guy. You can't go. You're grounded. She says, it shouldn't be legal for a 16-year-old to have a relationship with a man in their 30s. There should be something in place to protect children. She also wants the entertainment industry to change. For many years, Brandon has been applauded for his jokes describing how he has manipulated women for sex. I think he was very skillful in the start of making his identity be like, I'm the womanizer, I'm a sex addict, I'm inappropriate, but it's just a joke. It's funny. Alice claims it's a smokescreen for a lot more of his darker behavior. We felt like we were working as a pimp for him. How long is this? Sorry, I just want to see how fucking long this goddamn thing is. Okay, so it doesn't look like it's too much longer. We felt like we were working for Brent. During the early years of Brand's TV career as a Channel 4 presenter, there were repeated incidents which raised questions about his interactions with the young women while working for them. TV researchers, runners who worked at Channel 4 shows during this period alleged that Brand would get staff to approach younger female audience members so he could meet them after filming. 2 former crew members working on Big Brother's E-Forum, a live spin-off debate presented by Brand that would become Big Brother's Big Mouth, separately claimed this made them feel like they were working as a pimp for Brand. One says she remembered women calling her in tears after feeling they had been treated poorly by Brand. Another claimed that there were occasions where she had to collect Brand from a hotel room and he appeared in his underwear and suggested having quickie. She could not tell if he was joking or not. She says Brand's behavior was widely discussed by those working on the TV set. One runner, Rachel, who was 24 at the time, says she once walked into Brand's dressing room and claims he flashed his penis at her. She alleges that Brand insinuated that she could give him oral sex. She was shocked and refused. She felt unable to tell anyone about what happened and was worried that if she complained, she would lose her job. She says Brand continued to pursue her, and sometime after, he asked her to visit his flat. When she arrived, they kissed and had sex. They began a relationship, but she alleges he told her to keep it a complete secret. She claimed Brand told her that he had it written into his contract. He wasn't allowed to have any sexual contact with anyone working on Big Brother. Edmol said they had reviewed the contract and Brand did not have a clause pertaining to sexual relationships. So he lied to a chick to keep it a secret. Oh, okay. It's like, okay, of course he did. Like, of course he did. He was probably banging other chicks on that. And he didn't want it to be spread around so that, these girls wouldn't be getting together and talking to each other. And then he'd lose the sexual access to these girls. Like, okay. A researcher claims Brand's behavior while working on E-Forum and Big Brother's Mouth was reported to production managers at the Edel, a company commissioned by Channel 4 to produce the show. They alleged that they complained about Brand pursuing audience members for sex, but claimed their concerns were dismissed. The researchers remembered being told by a talent manager, it's what happens with talent. Boys with boys. It's not a big deal. A spokesman from Bache UK, which brought Edelmo in 2020, said it reviewed its files and correspondence. It could find no record of any issues about Brand being raised formally or discussed with Edelmo. They didn't find any files, correspondence that proved that any of this actually happened. Any of these complaints were actually filed. It said we take our duty and care of our cast, crew, and staff extremely seriously, while the legacy company Edelmo did not have a code of conduct, supporter policies, and escalation procedures in place during the period in questions. They were not as robust as our current processors. We are sorry these women did not feel supported and protected while working on these productions, and in light of these serious allegations, encourage them to contact us in confidence. Okay. Brand would regularly have sex with women he met at events. Two who would back home with him on separate occasions claimed he became threatening and shouting at them when they refused to have intercourse with him. One left his home in tears. Helen Beggar, who worked as Brand's personal assistant in 2006, says that during her interview for the job, she told one of his managers that she had a girlfriend. The manager later told her that being gay was seen as plus for the job. She believes that manager wanted to make sure I would be safe. He just wanted a purely platonic situation. Yeah, look, lady, you didn't really have much to worry about. I know that was fucked up, but come on. Berg says that Brand was a narcissist, shocking, and would often only wear underwear while she worked. She also remembered Brand openly showing his friends intimate pictures of women. Once, while in Edinburgh for a festival and in a bar, she says Brand showing pictures like these to his friends. She said, I leant in, and as he was going through these pictures, he gets to a picture of someone I knew. It did something to me. It made me feel really sick. These are women who aren't expecting to be shown to dudes' friends. Lilana Delpina, a highly expert celebrity assistant who worked for Brand between 2007 and January 2008, says that she believed that she was hired by the managers because she was nearer to his mother age than his. She recalls in her interview, Brand said that he'd like to walk around with nothing on or something long, sometimes just a long kafata with nothing underneath. Dylan Pina replying, I've got a son who's older than you. I've seen it all. Brand, who goes on to be hired by the BBC, first on BBC 6 Music in April 2006, before he was moved to Radio 2 that November, he often courted controversy, culminating in the Saxgate scandal. In October 2008, Brand and his co-presenter Jonathan Ross made prank calls to actor Andrew Schatz, who played Manuel in Fawlty Towers. leaving a lewd message on his answering phone. Brand hinted at a relationship with Sasha's granddaughter, Georgina Bellini, prompted Ross to declare he fucked your granddaughter, which Josh had not known about. But did he actually do it, or he was just saying that to fuck with this guy? Like, okay. When the scandal emerged, Gordon Brown, then the prime minister, criticized the broadcast, and both brand and station controller Leslie Douglas resigned from the BBC, which was fined £150,000 by Ofcom. The BBC admitted the editorial standards had been broken. He grabbed my underwear. I'm telling him to get off. Following the scandal, Brand moved to Los Angeles, where he focused on a Hollywood film career and new American TV show. He remained in LA after his marriage to Perry failed in 2012. One night, he met Nadia, a businesswoman who was then in her 30s. They exchanged numbers. And Brand later got in touch, and they began texting and talking on the phone. She said they met up in June 2012 at his house in LA and went on to have consensual sex, but she was unsettled by his glazed over look. He does this thing where he glazes over. I don't know what's going on in his head. She said, it was fine, but it was a weird first time experience with someone when you're having sex with them for the first time. During one text exchange, Brand suggested that Nadia bring a friend. They then met again in early hours when she arrived at his house after pleading with her to come over. When I walked in, the door was unlocked. I just walked in. Nadia said he comes out of the bedroom naked, and I'm kind of taken back. I got my bag on my shoulder, a little dress, and a coat on top. Nadia said Brand took her to a wall, kissed her, and made a comment something along the lines of, I'll keep you safe. He then told her that a friend was already in the bedroom and that he wanted her to join them, according to Nadia. I'm like, no, that's not happening. I don't care. That's not happening. We're not doing that, she says. I tried to get away from him, and I slipped away from the wall. And then I went to another wall that had a painting on it. A huge painting. My bag got stuck underneath, and it's still on my arm. And at this point, he grabbed me at my underwear, pulling it to the side. Nadia alleges that she told Brand to get off her, and she wanted to leave, but he carried on. I'm stuck underneath the painting, and he's pushing up against me. He's a lot taller than me. He has that glazed over look. In his eyes again, I can't move, and I told him, get off, get off. Nadia claimed that Brand pushed her up against the wall and raped her without a condom. Brand finally finished, and she says she pushed him away. He then blocks the door that I've come into, because he doesn't want me to go. He's like, are you okay? I'm like, no, I'm not okay. You need to get away from me. He's like, let's calm down. Nadia said that Brand eventually stepped away from the door he had been blocking after Nadia told him she wanted to use the bathroom. I ran out and jumped in my car. Thank God I didn't park in his driveway and booked it out there, she says. That was it. I sat on the road a little bit. I was in a daze. At 3:29 a.m., Brand sent Nadia a text. He wrote, I'm sorry. That was crazy and selfish. I hope you can forgive me. I know that you're a lovely person, X. She tried phoning her at 3:51 a.m., but the call went unanswered. All right, so this is the alleged text after the assault on Brand texting her, Nadia, sorry. So let's just look at this odd text message. So here we are. July 1st, 2012 at 3:29 a.m. I'm sorry. That was crazy and selfish. I hope you can forgive me. I know that you're a lovely person, X. July 1st, 2012 at 10:59 a.m. You scared the shit out of me. You're right. I am a lovely person. And for you to take advantage of me like that is unexpected. You have a problem. You need help. It is dangerous that you think you can get your own way all the time. Do you know how scary you are when that glazed look comes over you? When a girl says no, it means no. Do I have to go get myself tested? Last time you asked me condom or no condom. When I say condom, that doesn't mean it's optional. You don't have the best reputation. I pride myself on being safe and trying to make the right decision. Obviously, this was a bad one. I'm so disappointed. I'm very sorry. You don't need to get tested. I'll make it up to you somehow with I'm assuming that means love and kindness, not my original idea, which was more sex. You've been lovely to me. I'm embarrassed by my behavior. Sorry, X. August 5th, 2012 at 1:46 a.m. Will you ever forgive me, X? Now, here's the thing. First off, all the other text messages have a timestamp. Okay, so there you go. Boom. Boom. There's no timestamp there, but there's a timestamp here. There's a timestamp here. Now, you could say the timing, this way it could have been, but I don't know. It's odd that there's a timestamp between everything else except these two texts. Right here. It's very odd. Now, again, that may be very well because they happen so closely together. As you see, there's a bit of time difference between here. So at 3:29, the next text isn't for like another 7 hours, 30 minutes. Okay. And then this one here is a couple days, it's several days afterwards. But it's odd that there's no timestamp right here. Now, this looks like it's an iPhone. I don't know how iPhones work. I don't have one. Here's another thing that's weird. So right here, no, it, and then all of a sudden, the text format is completely different. So look, you can tell that right here, the text format's all clear, regular, and then all of a sudden it changes and gets this big kind of blurry look. That's odd to me. I don't know about you, but again, I don't know about text messages on iPhones, but I don't foresee a reason why after all these means looks like a completely different text, like a text format, and it looks a little blurry. None of the other text messages go like that. So that looks odd to me. It looks suspicious to me. All right. The U.S. phone number that brands use to send the message has been verified by multiple sources. Nadia, meanwhile, had told a close friend what had happened, and she took her to the Rape Treatment Center, RTC, at UCLA Santa Monica Medical Center that same day. She shared a full copy of her treatment records, which states that she provided her underwear and other samples as evidence, which were frozen. An officer from Los Angeles Police Department was alerted by the center, according to the notes, but she chose not to make a police report, saying to the censor, she didn't think my words would mean anything up against his. Well, it wouldn't be just your words; it would be the evidence. The bruising, the tears. Just saying, but whatever. Notes also stated that she was worried that if her assailant's name is somehow released, then her name would be dragged through the dirt. Okay. Nadia had therapy at the clinic for the following. Now, here again, I come to this again. So she wasn't willing to really talk to a cop. It doesn't mention that the report, it doesn't look like the report mentioned anyone's name. So she wasn't willing to provide a statement really to the cops. But now, 10 years later, 11 years later, whatever, she's willing to go public about it. Whenever I see something like that, it's a red flag to me. Nadia had therapy at the clinic for the following 5 months. During her therapy sessions, records showed that Nadia was contemplating criminal or civil proceedings before ultimately deciding against it. However, she wrote Brand a letter hoping to regain some of her power in the process, he noted. She says she sent it to his house. The letter said, "Do you know what you put me through? My body through. You scared the shit out of me on July 1st. I thought in any situation I would be strong enough to fight someone off. You completely broke me down. I was fighting and screaming so hard." Brand kept building his career in America. The following year, another woman claimed she was the victim of sexual assault at Brand's house. Phoebe, who was in her 20s, says she met Brand at an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting before they started working together, and that she had a brief sexual relationship with him, which had ended by the time of the alleged attack in early 2013. Phoebe says the team working on a project with Brand at the time worked from different locations, including his property in West Hollywood. She was at his house when she realized that a member of his staff had gone and they were alone. She described being trapped in a bedroom and realizing that Brand wanted to have sex with her. She can't remember whether he was naked or in his underwear, but he ended up naked at some point and started chasing her. He grabbed me, got me on his bed. He claimed he tried to kiss her and remove his clothes as she pinned her down. Phoebe says, and I saw something in his eyes. I swear to God, like black, like his eyes had no more color. They were black, like the devil, like a different person literally entered his body. She was fully clothed. I screamed and was like, "What are you doing? Stop, please. You're my friend. I love you. Please don't do this. I don't want to do this." I think he had his hand down my trousers, but I was fighting so hard and screaming so hard. I hoped that I could get through somehow. She says, I don't know what the actual definition of sexual assault is, but it feels like that. He didn't rape me. She says she kept begging him to get off her. Eventually, he relented, and at which point he said he flipped and was super angry. Phoebe said Brand shouted, "Fuck you, and you're fired." And she fled Brand's house in tears, stopped only to grab her shoes before running barefoot to the car. After she left, Phoebe says she passed a group of people who arrived at his house for a meeting about the project. Years later, she says that she met one of the people who had been in the group. She says, he pulled me aside and said to me, "I'll never forgive myself for not running the house to save you. I heard you screaming. I didn't know what to do. And we were all so scared of him, and I didn't do anything. I'm so sorry." Okay. Well, this is another unverified report, apparently. And apparently the Times attempted to contact this person, but he didn't respond. Phoebe, who told friends about what happened, felt forced to return to work in the days afterwards, but she claimed that Brand, after becoming aware of her allegations, cornered her and threatened her with legal action. Phoebe did not formally report the incident as she feared her career would be affected. 3 separate sources confirmed she told them about the allegations at the time, while 2 more were also aware of it. Okay. Short time later, Brand left the U.S., moved back to the UK. It was then that the serious allegations about his conduct behind closed doors first became public. 2014, an ex-girlfriend, Jordan Martin, wrote about their relationship in a self-published book, Not Entangled with a Celebrity. She renamed Brand as Randall Grand and herself as Diane. She declined to be interviewed for this investigation due to personal family circumstances, but has confirmed that she stands by her account in the book, says it's an accurate depiction of the relationship. Brand never challenged her on its content. Brand and Martin had a 6-month relationship from February 2007, during which they briefly lived together. In the book, Martin describes being sexually assaulted by Brand and Brand being physically and emotionally abusive towards her. The alleged assault occurred at the Lowry Hotel in Manchester. She described how Brand became angry when he found out she had spoken to an ex-boyfriend, snatching a phone from her, ripping the case apart, and pulling out the battery. Martin writes that she was about how she then walked away from Brand, was standing at the sink when he came behind her. In her words, described how Brand does not say a word. He stands so close, he slides his hand down from the front of her low-hanging jeans into her underwear and forces a finger inside of her. Martin writes that about how she was not ready for his intrusion and did not find it sensual or pleasant. After that, Brand allegedly walked out of the room silently, feeling confused, uncomfortable, and stunned, leaving her. She also described how he once forced her to brush her teeth so hard her gums bled, she would taste anonymous to him. Martin writes that Brand pushed boundaries, controlling over other people to fulfill personal perversions for the sake of dominance or for the sake of something. Alarming displays of aggression. Brand's attitude towards women became an open secret in radio and TV productions, according to sources. Many felt that the BBC should have been awake to concerns about Brand's on-air behavior before the Sassgate scandal. While hosting his BBC radio on 6 Music, he and his co-host Martin Morgan would sometimes address in the studio and encourage other guests to do so likewise. When contacted by the Times and Sunday Times, Morgan said, I stopped working with Russell Brand several years ago. During the time I worked with him, I was never aware of any allegations of serious sexual misconduct against him. I absolutely condemn all form of mistreatment of women. Looking back at the time I spent working on radio, I'm regretful to learn that a show I was part of made colleagues uncomfortable at the time. In July 2008, Ofcom, the communications regulator, fined the BBC $17,000 and £17,500 pounds for a serious breach of its code after finding that Brand shows on Six Music had faked a competition winner. During other Radio 2 episodes, Brand made a series of sexual remarks about the newsreader and Andrea Simmons, describing her on air as erotic and a sex bomb, and telling listeners that he would like to go under her desk while she was reading the news. Several times after this, it is implied Brand was forced to apologize by BBC production staff. In 2007, Brand called Jimmy Salvi, who suggested the pair could meet if Brand brought along a sister. Brand doesn't have a sister, so instead offered to bring a female employee, agreeing on Salvi's request that she should be naked. I got a personal assistant, he said, as a part of her job description is that anyone I demand she greet, meet, massage, she has to do. She's very attractive, Jimmy. This was 4 years before Salvi's death and 5 years before the details of Jimmy Will Fix It presenter's crimes were exposed. According to insiders who were working for BBC Radio at the time, complaints were made about Brand's behavior in the studios to Leslie Douglas, when the BBC controller for Radio 2 and 6 Music, but appeared to be done as the result. In 2007, another serious complaint was made by BBC staff to Leslie Douglas about Brand's behavior in the Radio 2 studio. Sources who were involved said the complaint was made after an alarming display of aggression and disrespect by Brand and in the studio, which included Brand hurling objects across the studio in fits of rage, urinating in a bottle in full view of everyone. Brand had done this, the source said, in front of production and guests, including a young person who appeared to be a minor and had been sent to appear on Radio 2 by a charity. This alleged complaint and others were not mentioned in subsequent official reports into SASGate, whatever. Spokesperson for the BBC said its clear expectation policies around conduct at work had taken the Jonathan Ross radio incident incredibly seriously. He said, "We hope to demonstrate that BBC takes issues seriously and it prepared to act. Indeed, we had added that in addition to acting on the serious editorial breaches at the time, the BBC has, over succession of years, evolved its approach on to how to manage talent, indeed, how it deals with complaints and issues raised. We'll always listen to people if they come forward with any concerns on any issues relating to any individual working at the BBC, past or present." Am I almost done with this shit? All right, I'm nearly done, it looks like. A spokesperson for John Knoll, A lawyers representing Douglas said that Ms. Douglas did not at any time encourage, enable, or fail herself to take any adequate steps within her power regarding to the conduct of Russell Brand, of which she is aware. She is presently unable to provide any information which may be relevant to the matters raised in this article due to obligations owed by her to her former employer. Alice, who later worked at Channel 4, recalled a meeting in late 2013 or early 2014, during which Brand was pitched as a host of a show, but concerns about his behavior were flagged. The solution that was offered was that we would work, we would take the female staff off the crew. Women that had worked hard to get into this industry now can't work on particular shows because of the fear that might be assaulted or harassed. I was in disbelief. So Alice not only quote unquote dated Russell Brand, but then eventually, after breaking off their relationship, quote unquote relationship, ended up working on Channel 4. And when Brand was going to host a show, was working there. Interesting. Brand continued to be given opportunities by mainstream broadcasters in UK, including on Channel 4. In 2019, he appeared on a celebrity edition of Bake Off. He baked biscuits inspired by the genitals of his wife, Laura Gaelicher. A spokesperson for Channel 4 said Channel 4 is appalled to learn of the deeply troubling allegations, including behavior alleged to have taken place on programs made for Channel 4 between 2004 and 2007. We are determined to understand the full nature of what went on. We have carried out extensive document research and have found no evidence to suggest that alleged incidents were brought to the attention of Channel 4. Shocking. We will continue to review these in light of any further information we receive, including the accounts of those affected individuals. We will be asking the production company who produce the programs for Channel 4 to investigate these allegations, report their findings properly and satisfactory towards us. Now, this is going to be used as, the industry's just covering up. That's what this is going to be used by people that just automatically believe all this. It's said that in the many years since the incident emerged, there had been extensive changes in Channel 4's management, and it was committed to ensure TV industry is safe and inclusive. A spokesperson for John Knoll Management, the agency that represented Brand in 2012-2017, said that for legal reasons on which they cannot elaborate, they were not in position to respond to questions. Female comedians have been warned for years. For this investigation, journalists were in touch with dozens of comedians who worked with Brand. A female comedian said that in early 2000, when they gigged together, Brand chased her around the backstage and bit her on the face despite her making clear she was uncomfortable. Whenever he saw me, he would grab me and bite my face, and it was coupled up with this weird, horrible energy, she recalls. I said to him, I don't like this, and he still did it so much before he stopped. It was him crossing boundaries. He also witnessed his behavior at parties. He was like the Predator from 1987 sci-fi film. He would show up, and you see him scanning the room, who he hadn't slept with, who he was going to sleep with. He should never have gotten to Hollywood. His behavior should have stopped that, but he was able to become a Hollywood star and do so well out of it. Well, I mean, Hollywood's done what, like, people in Hollywood have done far worse than, what she's alleging at these parties. And, people in Hollywood have done far worse than what Russell Brand is being accused of. Daniel not excusing behavior like this, but it's just like if these allegations are true, then Hollywood's a perfect place for a guy like Russell Brand. If this was true. Daniel Souls was the only comedian willing to speak on the record, and using his real name. He says he first heard rumors about Brand's behavior on the comedy circuit about 10 years ago. Sloss says that female comedians had set up an online groups that they used to warn each other of comedians and others working in the comedy industry who they had unpleasant experience with, including predatory behavior. Sloss says, I don't know of many, many years that women have been warning each other about Russell. He said, I know there are comedians who made reference in jokes to Russell's alleged crime and have either been asked or told not to do those jokes anymore. In recent years, Brand has reinvented himself again. He promotes himself as a wellness guru with estimated 28 million followers across social media, podcasts, and live festivals. He's become known for discussing conspiracy theories while offering advice on subjects such as relationship and addiction. In late 2020, Alice, who's now happily married, contacted Brand's literary agency, Art Guard Wood, the co-founder of Tavistock Wood, which is owned by talent agency Curtis Brown. Jesus Christ. Alice says she told Brand representatives what he did to her when she was 16 because she hoped he had changed. She wanted an apology and, at the very least, for them to know what type of man they were representing. She says she was told Brand was away at a wellness retreat, but she would get a response. Alice eventually did hear back from a lawyer acting for Brand who denied her allegations. It was very aggressive and it was clear I was after money, implied it was almost blackmail that I was doing this. I never mentioned money. The lawyer was the only person that ever mentioned money. She replied to Brand's lawyer, emphasizing that she was sharing the truth and had never asked for money. I have spent too long recovering from these acts to have them dismissed or be intimidated into invalidating my own experience, she wrote, adding to even imply that this quantifiable amount that would compensate for sexual assault is frankly insulting. It would take his representatives almost 3 years to say they believed Alice. After we contacted him last week, Brand was suddenly removed from the websites of Curtis Brown and Travis Wood. The latter then said Russell Brand categorically denies the allegations made in 2020, but we now believe we were horribly misled by him. Travis Wood had terminated all professional ties to Brand. Okay, here we go. All right, I'm done. Finally, that was a long ass article. All right, so there we go. That's so what's going on here. You can choose to believe it. You cannot. It's up to you. I always have issues with people alleging something, not wanting to speak to the police for years, and then all of a sudden, after years, and and all that, to start speaking up and make allegations. I'm always skeptical about that. And I guess the whole Nadia chick thing. Now, it is considered rape and illegal to, or was it Nadia? I don't know. It was someone. One of the chicks, it is Nadia, I think. The quote-unquote Nadia girl. It is illegal in California to remove a condom during sex, and it is defined as rape, but there is a statute of limitations of 10 years. Here's the thing about all these. All these instances are beyond the statute of limitations. So they can't go after him criminally. Now they're going after him publicly. After the public smear campaign, I'm sure there will be some civil lawsuits, or there's some civil lawsuits in the works. Again, that text message thing, it's strange to me. It's all clear, and then all of a sudden it's blurry after no. It's odd. Like, it's a completely different font. And then the timestamps, that's kind of weird too. So I don't know. Look, is there a chance all this is true? Absolutely. There's a chance all this is true. But from what I've seen so far, it's a lot of Did I not? Hold on. Oh, no, this is there. No, sorry. Okay. Nothing. Never mind. All right. It seems like a lot of he said, she said type situation. That's what it seems to me. Like I said, I have a hard time believing any of this. But again, it could absolutely be true. I'm not saying, there's no way in hell this is true, but I'm finding it very hard to believe that it is true. Like the time, no police, really interactions except from Nadia, but then doesn't want to press charges, but now wants to talk about it, several years later. I don't know. Like I said, it's it's a bit much, but I mean, I'll continue to talk about it whenever, if anything new comes up about it. But yeah, I'll continue to be suspicious whenever it comes out, when something like this comes out after it's been years and they're finally ready to talk to the public and not to anything. I just find it suspicious is all. All right, so that's all I got for you today. Again, make sure you follow me at official WGhost on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it. And then follow me here on Rumble with Ghost and on YouTube as well. And then Gaming with Ghost on Rumble and on Kick. I have my unique URL codes for both. So here is my With Ghost channel. This is my daily show, the one I do Monday through Friday. And this is my Game with Ghost channel, which I try to do whenever I can. Yeah. So I hope you all enjoyed it. I hope you all have a good day. Check out Coffee Brand Coffee. Make sure you use this referral link when you do. And yeah, see you later, and come back with another wonderful video tomorrow. All right, see ya.